You just got home from a long, relaxing vacation to find your house burglarized. Pretty much everything of material or sentimental value gone. You are stunned, you're feeling properly violated, and a little bit shocky that not one of your neighbors saw all of your worldly goods being carted off. You thought he loved you, said he did, but why did he, 6 months after the wedding, start putting you down in front of his friends and your friends? Why did he start checking the odometer on your Honda? Why is he reading your email? Why did he just this morning rape you and threaten to kill you and your parents if you called the cops? Residential burglary, domestic violence, common crimes. What about these? You're driving to the gym one morning, you're listening to the news, you hear about a Florida woman who's held her 7-week-old infant under scalding water. Punishment for excessive crying. 3rd-degree burns to the eyes, the ears, the face, the torso. Emilio Jesus Batista survives for 2 weeks before succumbing. You don't know whether you'll ever be able to shake the image or whether you should. You've had it. I mean, it was perfect. The brand new downtown condo. Tricked out with all the latest amenities, but it's hopeless. The open-air drug market on the corner. The dirty syringes, the used condoms, the unmistakable odor of urine, and worse. Every other time you leave the building, you're confronted by a drug dealer or an aggressive, confrontational panhandler. Every other time you return, you're terrified that one of those menacing figures is going to follow you inside the locked lobby. Or this one. You're at work, your husband calls frantic, turn on the TV. There's been a shooting at the Twins Elementary School. An unknown number of children down, bloodied, unmoving. You have no idea whether your 6-year-olds are among the survivors or the dead. How do these and other crimes affect you? Other crimes? What about the shooting of a downtown bus driver, the rape and murder of a homeless woman? How about a college professor leaving a soccer match who is stabbed to death? How do these crimes affect you? I'll tell you how they affect me. They scare me, some of them, and they piss me off. As enlightened as I would like to think myself to be, as committed to social justice and to redemption as I know myself to be, I find myself resenting perpetrators, people who hurt other people, particularly if they go uncaught or are unrepentant. Like the guy who broke into my apartment and relieved me of 100 jazz and R&B albums. LPs we're talking, vinyl we're talking. That was 51 years ago. I just counted it up. 51 years ago, and I'm still carrying some measure of resentment, a cellular memory of what it felt like to walk into my home and realize what had happened. Predatory crime, neighborhood crime, street crime causes property values to deflate, insurance premiums to inflate, produces a lot of inconvenience and disorder in our lives, and the worst of all, it causes us to change the way we live. Fear, sublimated, paralyzing, at whatever level we experience it, causes the way we live to actually change. Causes us to change the way we raise our kids, the way we look at strangers. So what do we do about it? Well, we call the cops. And we embrace 3 strikes legislation, aggressive stop and frisk policies, mandatory minimums, an insane drug war that is guaranteed to produce crime and violence. We wind up calling the cops as sort of the first step. The real question that I want to raise here this afternoon, the proposal that I want to submit, is not that we, quote, take the law into our own hands, but I would not object to that characterization of what I'm about to propose. I gave a talk many years ago, just before I left San Diego for Seattle. We had experienced in the Hillcrest community a vicious street robbery series. Hillcrest is home to many of that city's LGBT community, and we had a couple of gay-bashing skinheads who were sneaking up behind their prey with pipes and baseball bats and crushing skulls. It literally was just a matter of time before someone got killed. And when finally it happened, the victim, a 17-year-old, we held our meeting. The police and the community getting together to figure out what we could do to prevent further attacks. I will never forget this meeting. I gave my customary talk about what the community could do to help us. Be our eyes and ears, I said. Call 911 if you see anything suspicious, I said. From the back of the room came a very loud, very angry shout. Look, Chief, either you catch these bastards or we will. I don't know what caught me, what stopped me from reacting as I normally would have. Look, you don't want to take the law into your own hands. You don't want to become vigilantes. You don't want to put yourself in harm's way. You don't want to violate the rights, the freedoms of your fellow citizens. Leave law enforcement to us. But it occurred to me, whose law were we talking about? Whose streets? Whose homes? Whose businesses? Whose customers? Whose friends? Whose loved ones were being assaulted, murdered? So instead of discouraging this impulse, we went with it and asked the community, what can we do to help you? 3 days into the formation of this new community citizens patrol, a couple of citizens spotted suspects, matched the descriptions, but they weren't sure. They did exactly what you would hope for them to do. In fact, this is exactly what we had trained them to do. They got on cell phones that we had provided. They called, then they hung back and observed. Patrol officers in uniforms, of course, swept in, investigated, hooked up these two suspects, put them in the backseat of a cage car, and drove them to jail. They were subsequently charged, prosecuted, convicted, and sentenced to long prison terms for murder. That was an elegant division of labor between community and police. The citizens' eyes and ears, to be sure, but also their feet and their wheels and their imagination and their creativity and their determination and their willingness to do something that nobody had really ever dared done, and that is insist on a partnership with their local police. You see, the police in America belong to the people, not the other way around. Thank you. It was a grand success. It really was. But it wasn't enough. What was lacking in San Diego at that time and today, in Seattle at that time and today, and in every other police department in this country, is the spirit of partnership and sort of the structural spine of partnership that would actually begin to produce a cultural shift among police officers. And believe me, that is long, long overdue. I don't know if you've experienced this attitude. I hated it when I saw it as a cop. I think I even hate it more today. And that is police officers who convey an attitude that we are the police and you're not. We will decide what, if anything, we're going to do to prevent crime or detect and apprehend criminal offenders and the like in your neighborhood. There's something profoundly wrong with that. It is time, it seems to me, long since past time, to force from the outside in the kind of thing that I tried to do from the inside, and that is to create an attitude that the police are the people's police, all the people of the community. Now, there are all kinds of things that people can do to help bring this about. And in the process, by the way, make policing more satisfying and safer and more effective for the people who do it. I'm absolutely convinced of that. So what do? Well, we can organize. Well, how do you do that? Well, you can literally go door to door in your neighborhood. You can get to know the people to the left and to the right and across the street and up a floor and down a floor. In other words, you can organize your own neighborhood. Now, here's a little tip about that. You don't have to like them. Where is it written that we have to like our neighbors? You don't have to have coffee or cocktails with them. You don't have to name your kids after them. You don't even have to agree with them, except on the need for and the value of getting together to reclaim your sovereignty, to reclaim your streets, to reclaim your neighborhood. There are a lot of things that citizen groups can do. They can research and work to implement some extraordinary programs that are cropping up in many parts of this country. Programs of neighborhood safety and justice. The list is long. The internet is full of them. I encourage you to explore them. But I will point out one program. It's right here in the city of Seattle. It's the restorative justice circles that have been created in the wake of the so-called woodcarver shooting. It's real important, I think, too, that we find a way in our hearts and in our pocketbooks to support vastly increased funding for drug treatment and mental health services. It is unconscionable to jail sick people. It is a national disgrace that we do so. And don't, by the way, overlook citizen patrols. Just set some rules for them. No George Zimmerman, lone wolf, armed zealotry. No racism, no sexism, no homophobia, no trashing of the Constitution, no imperiling our neighbors. It's possible for communities to take direct action to make their streets safer. A quick story about what I think is truly remarkable in the formation of citizen patrols. Let's say, and I'll do it this way in the interest of time. Let's say I'm an abuser. My neighbors don't know this about me. That's not uncommon. I'm known to them as a friendly, happy-go-lucky guy. I'm like the barbecue king of the neighborhood. They all seem to like getting together with me. Last night, a bunch of them showed up on my doorstep, asked me if I wanted to take a stroll through the neighborhood. Something about a daytime residential burglary series. I said, why not? I'm against crime. We walked, we talked. They handed me a bunch of pamphlets. I took them home, I read them. The one on domestic violence, it just shocked me to my socks. It told me I was a criminal. Peer pressure, social pressure, Sandbox 101, in Nicaragua, in parts of South Africa, in Northern Ireland, and many other parts of the world, women are throwing protective circles around the dwelling of abuse victims. The message being communicated when they begin to strike pots and pans with big spoons is to the offender, knock it off. And to the victim/survivor, we're here for you. We got your back. That's powerful stuff. Now, I'm not suggesting we throw circles around a residence in Belltown or Ballard and start hammering away on pots and pans, but what if? What if Over time, we are able to convince every spouse, every parent, every significant or intimate other, every child, that we don't hit people in this neighborhood. Here, have a pamphlet. It's so important to create an educational process that embraces these principles of nonviolence and justice. My time is almost up. Let me cut to the chase. Is it possible for you to come home to your residence and find all of your valuables intact after a long absence? Is it possible for us to prevent domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse? Is it possible to thwart the auto thief, the car prowler? Is it possible to make rampage violence and mass murder a thing of the past? For me, the answer is absolutely yes. That is possible, but only if we embrace what the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation calls a force multiplier. Imagine a neighborhood, any neighborhood, but preferably yours. Picture it. You're organized, you're mobilized, you're knitted together in partnership, not just with the police, but with a variety of other agencies. And you're all committed to making your community safe and just. It can happen, and it's as doable as it is necessary. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.